I've spent most of my life in a room filled with soundproof panels and no windows, so the only source of light I had was the one coming from the screen and the LED lights I installed on one of the 4 walls. I like to keep the color on green because it matches my walls, and I also think green is an optimistic color. For example, when I say red, what is the emotion you think of? I would say anger. How about blue? Yeah, me too, I have no clue. But you know what I mean. Green is nature, God's gift. It's also the color of money, something we all want. Should have been red if you ask me. I didn't want to be sitting in complete darkness, but I also didn't want to use the pot lights because it didn't help me get in the right mood when I tried to get creative. Whenever I show people the studio that my father built for me, I never turn the lights on because I want people to get the right feel when entering the room. But sometimes people turn on the lights and it actually makes me so angry, but I just swallow my rage and proceed to play an unreleased song for them and put the volume on blast seeking validation. If you're watching this and you have no idea who I am, well, let me introduce myself. My name is Anthony, but most people call me Jasper. Jasper Good.
Why they hating on a young motherfucker who just said you a sucker? Glasses clean, fill my cup up, maybe lean. Lift the top up, whip is me. Whip is me, wipe it clean.
I was born and raised in Montreal, Canada. I dropped out of school at the age of 16. It just seemed like no matter how hard I tried, I just couldn't succeed. I was extremely behind on everything. I'm far from book smart, and that's one thing that makes me incredibly self-conscious, to be quite honest with you. So anyway, after that, I started making music with one of my best friends, Nico, someone I consider a mentor when it comes to this music. He was the instrumental to my vocals. In other words, he produced the beat, and I rapped on it. We called ourselves the Youngsters. We both got tatted the letter Y with a line in the middle on our ribs because, well, who wouldn't? I also have a painting on my wall of that letter Y that I painted myself with both of our names on it. I really thought we were gonna take over the world together. We went a good 3-4 years of making music. We even planned to move to Los Angeles to pursue this dream we had, but it never ended up happening. While in the process of chasing this dream, he decided to move to Vancouver one day. I was kinda bummed out, but I always want what's best for my homies, and it made me realize that maybe he didn't have the same vision as me. We made a lot of good songs that I will never forget about, as those were the stepping stones to the rest of my life. So there I was, 20 years old, on my own. No producer, no one to look up to and ask for advice, just me and my microphone, the same one I still use to this day. Oh, and me and Nico, we're still good friends. He also moved back to Montreal after a year of being in Vancouver. Now I'm gonna be honest, Nico wasn't the best producer out there, but he was my friend, and he was the first person to believe in me, and I was willing to grow with him. But again, he moved to Vancouver. And yes, he still could have made beats for me, but it just wouldn't be the same if we weren't in the same room. And I also felt like he was slowly losing motivation to make music. So with no one producing for me, I had nowhere to go. So that's when I turned to YouTube and beat selling websites. I truly believe everything happens for a reason, because once I started using beats that I found online, my whole approach to music changed. These beats opened up a whole new world of creativity for me. And that's when I dropped my first official single called Who Are You, a fan favorite. Then after that, I went on to drop my first official mixtape called Visions, a title that I have tatted on the inside of my left bicep. I got it tattooed as a reminder that I am worth it, that I can be somebody. This mixtape is what gave me hope. It's what gave me purpose. So a couple years go by and I go on to drop a bunch of mixtapes. First, Visions, then Summer Flows, Basement Chronicles, Warm Up EP, Worthy, which is a mixtape that was entirely produced by myself. I have no idea how I did it, but it was something on my bucket list that I wanted to achieve. And I did. It was a one-time thing. Then I dropped Unexplained EP, which was the last mixtape I released before partnering up with Tristan. A kid that I had no intentions of working with. I went my whole life not collaborating with anyone. I don't know what it was. I guess I had a huge ego. I always wanted to be better than everyone. I didn't want to share the attention I was getting because no one helped me out when I was coming up. Piece of advice, don't live your life that way. So it all happened on one random night. Tristan was hanging out with my cousin Alexia and his friend Ilias biking around the city. And I don't remember why, but they had come over to my house. So I showed them my studio and played them a couple songs. Then out of nowhere, Tristan was like, "Yo, let me get on the mic." And I was like, "Sure." It was all fun and games, nothing too serious. What Tristan was rapping about was absolutely random. He was just joking around and saying nonsense. But in the back of my head, I was like, damn, this kid got flow. He understands how to write a beat. He knows what he's doing, but just left it at that. So I bounced the song and sent it to him so he could listen to it, and not even 24 hours later he sent me a text because we had switched numbers the night before, asking me if he could come over to my studio to record a song with me. Now, as I said earlier, I don't collab with people, especially people who don't even have one song out yet, who don't even have dreams of becoming a rapper. But this time, I told myself maybe I should give it a chance. So he comes over and we chop it up a bit. I made us a couple of drinks, and that's when it all started. We made our first song called Blast Off. After making that song, we looked at each other in shock, and we knew we had something going on here. At the time, Tristan was playing soccer for the Montreal Impact Academy that he eventually quit to pursue music. That's crazy. So after Blast Off, we decided to make an EP called New Life, which was also the name of our brand, our movement. We went by the name Tricks and Jasper Good. Then a couple of months later, we dropped another EP called No Worries. In June of 2018, we decided to organize a house party that we also would be performing at. Tristan and his friend Ilias organized the whole thing. It was insane. $10 for guys, $5 for girls. It was in the backyard of Ilias' cousin's house, Kevin. Shout out to Kevin for letting us use the house. We broke down the rails of the balcony so we could use it as a stage and put up this huge tempo that Kevin had hooked us up with because he worked for a company that provided them. We rented speakers, lights, microphones, smoke machines. It was the real deal. My cousin Alexa was basically the barmaid at that party. I'll never forget that night. It was the first time me and Tristan performed side by side. I still have one of the tickets we sold pinned on my wall in my studio that we both signed. It was an unforgettable day. After that, we went ghost for a while because we started working with these so-called managers from LA who had approached us. They wanted us to make solo EPs, but long story short, it didn't work out and we canceled the whole thing. We actually both have the full EPs completed, but we can't release them because we don't have the rights to the instrumentals. So in June of 2019, a year after the first party, we organized the second one. We recorded 4 singles just for this party: Laval, Moving Fast, Final Round, and our personal favorite, Last Dance. This time, it was a place we rented. It cost us a fortune. Well, it cost Tristan and Ilias a fortune. This time we had all the alcohol in the world. We hired actual barmaids. It was an open bar. We had bodyguards and an actual stage that we built ourselves. There was something about this one though that just didn't feel right. Even though there was a line outside that wrapped around the side of the building, it didn't feel like people were here to watch us perform. They just wanted to party, and that's perfectly fine. Half of the people who came, I had no idea who they were. People ended up breaking the furniture we had to eventually pay back a couple of days later. Fights would break out, and we even had cops pull up to the party to check if anyone was underage. I think Tristan's boy Dylan even got arrested that night. It was still a good night though, can't deny that. So after that second party, we wanted to take it up a notch, so we decided to make our first official album titled Breakfast at Night. It consisted of 18 songs, 18 bangers if you ask me. We made the album in a span of 2 weeks. I would consider this one of my favorite projects ever made, and one of the greatest albums of all time. You heard me. Take a seat. If you follow me on Instagram or Snapchat, you've probably seen it in the background whenever I post a story. It's an album that I keep hanged in my studio. I cherish the time we spent on that album and how much fun we had making it. We both grew as artists while making this album. We learned so much about ourselves, our style, and us as a duo. We thought the whole city would know about us after dropping this album. Word went around, we did get many people to listen to it, but we expected an entire career to come out of this album. I've always believed in my previous body of work, but this album, I had 100% faith in. But still, after 5 years of making music, nothing. So what do you do when that happens? You pick yourself up and you keep moving forward. We spent a good couple of months not making music because we wanted to push Breakfast at Night to as many people as possible. We even filmed a music video to one of the songs called Making My Way to help promote it. It helped us a bit, but still not enough. After that album, I decided to go solo again. I wanted Tristan to experiment with his sound and find himself in music. I think it was good for him to be alone. I gave him my recipe. I showed him how to write songs, how to make sense, how to engineer, and how to mix and master. I wanted to go back to my roots, so I hit up Nico and asked if he was down to start producing again, and surprisingly he was. I think the break he took was good for him because we went on to drop a mixtape called Youngsters. It was the greatest mixtape I ever made, and I'm so happy it was produced entirely by Nico. And after that mixtape, I dropped my first official solo album, titled I Wish We Never. My favorite body of work, my most prized possession. I also got this one tatted on the back of my arm right over my elbow. The instrumentals on that album are beats that I purchased from a site where producers can sell their beats. There was only one song on that album produced by Nico, and it was my favorite, Wanna Know. Then I went on to drop another album entirely produced by Nico again, titled Nothing New. It consisted of 18 songs, just like Breakfast at Night. While I was releasing all these songs and albums, Tristan was working on his own music but never really released anything. He was still finding himself, so even though I was mad at him for not releasing anything, I'm happy he didn't, because the songs he has in Evolve today are so outstanding. It just doesn't make sense. It makes his old stuff sound like your grandmother's farts. At this point, I'm 8 years in of making music and trying to become a successful rapper, but still, nothing. I decided to rekindle the flame with Tristan and start making music together again because I felt like my style was a bit too old school and Tristan had more of a new school style. He sounded fresh, he sounded new. We went on to make 6 more singles but only released 3 of them. 2 of them with a music video, Flexing and Fuego, and 1 as a lyric video, Henny Rhymes. All of the songs me and Tristan released throughout our career can no longer be found anywhere. Long story short, Tristan got signed by these guys in LA and they wanted to rebuild his whole image, so we had to take down all the songs. He didn't tell me about this until a month later after we got on a FaceTime call. He explained to me that he signed with these guys and that he felt terrible about it because we've been trying to grow as a duo for 3-4 years. But I told him that I was extremely happy for him and that there's no hard feelings. We shed a couple tears, we had a couple laughs, and I was back on my own again. I had no more gas in my tank. I felt like I gave everything I had to this music, but I needed to push myself. I can't stop now. I came too far. So I made a 4-song EP called Dear Music. In a way, it was almost like a goodbye message to this dream I was chasing. The songs I made on that EP are songs that I never thought I could create. I completely leveled up my game and it rekindled a fire in me, but only for so little. After dropping that EP, I went ghost for a whole year. I changed my name back to Anthony on all social media platforms and I started making videos talking about mental health. I really enjoyed that time. I felt free. I felt like a huge weight was being taken off of my shoulders. It lasted a couple of months until I was ready to be Jasper Good again and start rapping. I wrote a couple of songs and even filmed my journey of recording the album. I was so hyped, but it didn't last long before I gave up. So I took another break for only 6 months this time. Then I came back with this one song called Ungrateful Living, and in my opinion, it's the greatest song I have ever written. And now, I'm here, 10 years later, 26 years old. This is the present moment. You may be wondering why I told you this story. It was almost like a documentary. Usually, this is something people make once they've lived a successful life, once they reach 50. But I'm far from successful. Or am I? What is success anyway? If there's one thing I was put on this earth to do, it was to make music, and I did precisely that. I wasn't put here to be famous. I wasn't put here to make millions of dollars. I was put here to create, to inspire, to be free. My purpose, it has been fulfilled, and I'm starting to realize that. So stepping away from this music doesn't bother me. I could stop right now, and I'll be extremely happy with what I have created, how far I came, and how much I've grown. Now obviously I want the money and the fame that comes with it, but as I said, that's not what I was put here to do. So if there's one thing I want you to take away from this video, it's to go chase that dream, but only if you have a passion for it. Don't worry about the success. If it happens, good. If it doesn't, don't stop creating, unless you lost that drive. You do it because you love it, nothing else. You do it because of the way it makes you feel free. I wish I had spent more time living in the moment. I went my whole life living in the future, thinking about the future, making plans for the future, but never really lived in the moment. I definitely have many memories I'll never forget about throughout my music career. I just wish I knew what I had before it was gone. Now don't get me wrong, I'm only 26 and I still have my whole life in front of me. And that's why I want you to chase that dream. I want you to take that chance. Because even if it doesn't work out, I promise you, you won't regret it. Because if you ask me, music, it saved my life. I wouldn't be here today. And it scares me to say that. So please, don't give up just yet. Because the world needs you. And I need you.